Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy, and in this video I'm going to be doing a comparison of the Razer Viper Mini and the Model O-, two very small, super lightweight mice, conveniently around the exact same weight, that are smaller versions of larger mice in their respective series. So here, first we're going to talk about the build quality. The build quality on both of these mice are solid, but I'm going to have to give the edge to the Viper Mini. It just feels a lot stronger. The mouse is a lot more well built based on my experience. No wobbling on the clicks. No side flex. No bottom flex. And overall, I can be as rough as I want on this mouse without facing any repercussions. That's something that's really good, and it just has a very firm build. The Model O-, on the other hand, it's still a very well built mouse, but as you can hear, there's a bit of creaking when I squeeze the sides. Not too much wobble on the buttons, but it's a bit noticeable. Not too much pre-travel, but a noticeable bit of post-travel. And if I wanted to break this mouse with my hands, especially from the bottom, I could easily do it. I just don't feel like that's the case on the Viper Mini though. But buying either of these mice, you're not gonna get a very flimsy, poorly made mouse. So I'm gonna give the edge to the Viper, but realize that with the Model O-, you're still gonna be getting a solid product. Next, we're gonna talk about the coatings. The Model O-, is of course available in a matte and a glossy coating. I got the matte, and it's a very smooth matte feeling. It's a bit slippery, but you can obviously get a solid grip of it. It's not one of my biggest issues with the mouse, but on the Razer mouse, you're going to get a very grippy PBT-like coating. And the only thing I can really compare this to are PBT keycaps, so if you guys know what that feels like, that's exactly how this coating is going to feel. And you can really get a solid grip of this mouse and not have to worry about it coming loose, while on the Model O-, getting that solid grip is going to be a bit harder. But again, that does come a bit down to preference and environment, so keep that in mind, but my personal preference is the Viper Mini's coating. Next, we're going to talk about the clicks. The Viper Mini uses the optomechanical switches, which were also in the standard Viper, but this time they're a lot more crispy and firmer. So you have a super light, super crispy feel on the click, and it's overall just a more refined version of the old Viper clicks. You're not going to have any issues with these as they're super crisp, no post-travel, no side to side, and no pre-travel either. So overall, very solid clicks. The Model O- uses Omron 20Ms, a very crispy, more crispy than the Viper Mini. A bit harder to activate, but you'll get used to it in no time if you have this mouse. And a bit of post-travel, but it's not going to affect you in game. Mine is a bit worse on the left click. But yeah, overall crispy, firm clicks that you're going to definitely be satisfied with. Overall, I'm going to say the clicks are about the same, but keep in mind the optomechanical switches have no debounce time, so that is another advantage that comes with them. Next, we're going to get into the scroll wheel. The Viper Mini has a very light, very good feeling scroll wheel that feels similar to the Hotties, which, as you guys know, my favorite scroll wheel ever, and it has a relatively light click. The Model O- has a very silent, very rubbery feeling scroll wheel with a very easy and light click. Overall, I'd say that this comes down to personal preference. Neither one of these is going to be like a very big difference, but yeah, I'm just letting you guys know how they feel. I can't really compare them because they're both good. The side buttons. The Viper Mini has very firm, very crispy side buttons that, unlike the old Viper, you can actually hit because they protrude out of the mouse since they removed the rubberized side grips. They give you a nice, deep, crispy sound, and overall I'm very satisfied with them. They're very good for Fortnite and anytime you really need to use them in a game. The Model O-, on the other hand, these side buttons are not my favorite, as you guys know. They're very small and they do have a good bit of pre-travel. I'm not sure if it's going to focus. I guess it won't. But yeah, you guys believe me when I say there's a bit of pre-travel and they're overall not as crispy or firm, but they are usable. My biggest issue is probably going to be the overall very small size. And yeah, they're not the best, but they're usable. But I'm going to give the edge to the Viper Mini. Both of the mice have a DPI button as well. Now going to the bottom of them, actually I'll do the cord first. So the cord on the Viper Mini is the Speed Flex cable, but it just doesn't feel as good as it did on the old Viper. I'm not sure what happened to it, but as you can see, it's not as flexible. It's very stiff, and overall it just keeps its shape while it moves, and it even like coils up a bit. Definitely going to be paracording it. While the Model O- and the Ascended cable is a lot more flexible. No issues with it not holding its shape, just a lot more lighter, flexible cable. Definitely going to give the edge on the cable to the Model O-, but when put in a bungee, both are going to be usable. Going to the mouse feet, the Model O- has the what are they called? The Ascended skates, I believe. It has 4 mouse feet, and they're on the edges of the mouse, and they do have a very solid glide, 100% PTFE. Put in the bungee to get a more accurate glide test. As you can see, very fast, very good, satisfying. They do feel buttery smooth on your pad while you play. No issues with swiping with them. And overall, just solid feet, no complaints there whatsoever. The Viper Mini, though, it has 2 big glides, and then this actually is not a mouse foot, it's just plastic. It has these 2 big Zowie-esque glides, and it's not going to have as much speed, but it does feel very smooth and has a nice smooth glide in your hand, but it's not going to be as drastic on the glide test. So personally, I prefer the 2 nice big feet that give a smoother glide, but if you prefer speed, I guess the Model O- might be a bit better for you. But in reality, both of these feet are very good, very close to the top of the stock feet list, if that makes any sense. Now onto the sensor. The Viper Mini uses a 3359, which goes up to 8500 DPI, while the Model O- goes up. It uses a 3360 and goes up to 16,000. That's really the only difference, because there's no performance difference in these mice from what from my testing, and the only difference that's been noticeable is the DPI, which in my opinion it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to say there's really a difference in the sensor, because there isn't. Now onto the shapes of these mice. As you can see, the Model O- is a tad bit longer than the Viper Mini, but the Viper Mini makes up for this by having a taller hump, which really does fill up a good bit of your hand. It makes this mouse, while it does feel very similar, it feels a bit bigger in your hand, and it is also a bit wider, which was my personal biggest issue with the Model O-. The Viper Mini does give you a bit more room for your pinky, and overall just a bit wider grip if you have hands similar to mine, which are 19 by 10.5. I'll show you guys my grip with each. I use a sort of relaxed claw, when I use the Viper Mini because it's what my hand naturally goes to. And as you can see, I have enough room for my pinky, and you can't really see that, but my thumb also feels nearly perfect on this mouse, while on the Model O-, I do use a fingertip grip because it just doesn't feel right trying to play a sort of relaxed claw because my pinky just goes off of the mouse. So the Viper Mini is going to be a lot safer for people with medium-sized hands because it'll force you into that relaxed claw grip, while the Model O- is really only going to be geared towards people with small hands or medium hands if you don't mind playing a fingertip grip. Both of these mice, I'm not going to recommend them to people with large hands, but in my opinion, the Viper Mini is the better mouse because it is $10 less. It feels a lot more solid in your hand, and it has a lot of better features that I've named in the earlier parts of this video. The Model O- does of course have a bit more RGB, but that's not going to be a deciding factor. And aside from that, the only thing that's really better is the cable. So yeah, I'll put the links to both mice in the description, but the Viper Mini is a very formidable mouse, and it's also super affordable. So yeah, with that being said, it's been boardzy. Oh wait, forgot the weight. Awkward. Both of these mice weigh in at 59 to 60 grams, and they feel the exact same in your hand. Both of them have very good weight balancing, and there's really no difference. They're super lightweight mice, and if you prefer lightweight mice because you feel like it makes you aim better, that shouldn't be a deciding factor in which of these mice you're going to get because it's the exact same. Yeah, basically super lightweight, super good, and super solid mice for the price. It's been boardzy. Peace out.